Before we jump into today's episode, I wanted to remind those healthcare executives out there that are from small and rural healthcare organizations that Capstone provides complimentary consultations. As you may know, we help small and rural healthcare organizations to be the provider and employer of choice to keep care local and margins strong. Go to capstoneleadership.net and you can fill out the contact form there or actually self schedule a day and time that works for you. We'd love to partner with you in executing a winning strategy.
One of my probably key goals, and I didn't say it, is I want people to believe those values and to live them out. So I really think that in everything we're doing, we've had to listen. That's our first value, right? Listen. Listen to our community, listen to our professionals, listen, listen, listen. And then our second value of love, I mean, I think that can come out in a lot of different ways, right? Like for me, love for the community, love for our professionals, and wanting to say that we take what we had and we do these things out of love for what we do, right? And so I think that that's a big one, and that we want, when our patients come in, we want them to feel like they're loved and cared about and listened to.
Welcome to Culture Change RX, the podcast for healthcare professionals that are committed to creating a thriving workplace culture, improving the experiences of employees and patients, and ultimately unlocking their organization's next level of potential. I'm Sue Tetzlaff, your host and co-founder of Capstone Leadership Solutions. Join me and my insightful guests each week as we share actionable insights for navigating the crucial people side of the business of healthcare. Subscribe now for a weekly dose of Culture Change RX. Now let's dive into this week's conversation where culture change takes center stage.
Welcome to another episode of Culture Change RX. And today is one of those episodes where I have the joy to have a guest in the studio. And her name is Theresa Sullivan, and she is a CEO at a community hospital in Washington. And I'm going to start with having her introduce herself, tell you a little bit about her organization, and we're going to have a really great conversation today about the new healthcare system they're building for their community. Welcome, Theresa.
Hi, Sue. It's a pleasure to be here today. Yeah, so maybe just a little bit about me. I have worked in healthcare for 33 years. I've always worked in community healthcare, rural healthcare, and actually in public hospital district healthcare. So I've had quite a bit of experience in that arena and growing up in healthcare that way. So it's been, I guess, about 11 years ago, I made the move from Minnesota out to Washington State to come to work for Samaritan Healthcare. And just maybe a little explanation about Samaritan and our location. So we are we're in central Washington, midway between Spokane and Seattle on I-90. So we are roughly an hour and a half from any larger healthcare organization. And we partner with a number of the healthcare organizations, smaller critical access hospitals that are around us. But it is roughly an hour and a half in any direction for patients to get healthcare if they can't get it here in Moses Lake. So one of the things for Samaritan, and we're a 50-bed hospital with 2 rural health clinics. And again, we are a public district hospital. And so we've really been focused on how can we grow to be more of a regional healthcare organization, because our community, even though we're really rural, we are growing very rapidly. And that has also it's been fun, but it's been a challenge for us as well to try to grow as our community grows. And one of the things that we're doing is we're actually very excited about this. Not too far, 135 days before we get certificate of occupancy on a brand new hospital, and roughly 200 days or so until we will see our first patients in that new hospital. So that's been a long journey for us, but we're really excited to be able to do that for our community.
Yeah. As a CEO and on an executive team of an organization, it's not every CEO that gets the experience of building a new building for their community, leaving a legacy that is standing right there as a lasting legacy. But what I know about your approach and your organization's approach with your leadership is that it isn't just about the building. So I'd love for you to talk about your philosophies around getting ready for this new building to be part of a new healthcare system for your community.
Yeah, I think really we've been tying together our culture approach, the way we deliver care into that new hospital. And I would say it really kind of started out of a few things. It's like we can build a new building, but if you build a new building and you take your old service, your old processes, and you bring them to the new building, it's not going to take long. And it's going to be like, well, this isn't, yeah, it's a nice building, but the service isn't great. And we really didn't want to have that happen. We didn't want that experience. One of the things is that our community, as they supported us in a bond, at least for part of the construction of that new hospital. And so we've talked a lot about the fact that one of the best ways that we can thank our community is by knocking their socks off with service when they come into the door, so that the beauty of the new building and the beauty of the service really matches up together, right? And so we've been spending a lot of time talking about that. We've also talked about the fact that not everyone is going to move to that new hospital. A lot of people will, but as I mentioned, we've got 2 rural health clinics. We also have a building where we house our billing staff and our coding staff, and we've got a number of remote workers. Not everybody's going to be moving there. And yet, I want everyone to know, and we want everyone to know, this is their hospital, right? They're part of this organization. And so a way to engage them so that they feel like they're a part of this new healthcare organization. So we've been looking at everything across the board. So I think I've shared with you that we have a few teams that are going right now. We have a pre-arrival team, an arrival team, a care team, and a fond farewell team. Well, those aren't just hospital teams. Those include frontline professionals from both of our rural health clinics, and really looking at what does pre-arrival look like, whether you arrive at the hospital or whether you arrive at one of our clinics. And we've talked a little bit about, like, if you go to a nice hotel, there's certain things that you expect when you come to that hotel, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so people should know that they should expect certain things from Samaritan on their pre-arrival, on their arrival, while they're getting care, and when we say our fond farewell to them. So those are a lot of
Mm.
the things, the philosophy and things that we've been talking about.
Mm. I love that it's not just about a new building. It really is about a new healthcare system that encompasses all of your buildings, all of your campus, all of your people, all of your patients. And it is a gift back to the community that has supported this project and your healthcare system. I know that to get to the point where you are today, and you've come a long way, there's a lot that's happened, and a lot that's had to be planned and executed. And I hear that you're pretty much on time and pretty much on budget. And that sounds like a rarity in my book. So congratulations on that. But looking back to, you've mentioned you've been there for about 11 years. When did this all start and how did it all start? And when you look back, what's kind of the trail that's gotten you to where you are today?
Yeah, that's a really interesting question, because when I joined the organization, I started as the chief operating officer. And actually, the CEO at the time was looking at the master facility planning, right? And it was determined at that particular point, like, yeah, we can't build a brand new building. And so, particularly, our emergency department is very busy, and it was and continues today to be really undersized, right? And so it turned into what do we do with that? The CEO ended up leaving about 11 months after I started, and I became the CEO. And we started talking about strategic planning, quite honestly, because a building is not a strategic plan, but the building needs to support the strategic plan, right? And so we really started with strategic planning, and then eventually got to the point where we looked at it again and said, it doesn't make sense to invest a lot of money in this building. We only have 10 acres. And it's like, we're going to invest money and then we're still going to be landlocked. And financially, we could afford to go to looking at a new hospital. And so we did that. Before I jump into how we went further with this new hospital, I do want to say that one of the things that throughout the strategic planning process, we were engaging the community, asking for input. What did they want to see in healthcare, whether that was through surveys or group meetings. And then the other thing that was really important at that time was we were also working to improve the hospital's reputation or the organization's reputation in the community. And I spent a lot of time going out and speaking to Kiwanis, to Rotary, whoever would have me. I would come and share the strategic plan and the vision for the future, right? And then I also got engaged in like our chamber board, our economic development council board. I got involved with the hospital association, and anywhere that I could talk about Samaritan, to be honest, I was talking about Samaritan and our strategic plan. So now I'm going to go back to, we decide that financially the feasibility works, we can build a new hospital, and we begin engaging architects, and we bought land, and we did all those things. And 2020 was when we were just about ready to break ground. Our plans were almost done, and we all know what happened in 2020, right? And so we had to shelf the plans that were literally ready to go to construction documents and deal with COVID. And we were still trying to get financing approved and those kinds of things because we went through the USDA. And we had a lot of ups and downs. Our financing got denied one year because of the stuff with COVID. Then we got the financing approved, but the cost of the building escalated because we know how much everything escalated during COVID. And we had told the community we could do this without a bond. And what ended up happening is we couldn't. We got the guaranteed maximum price. We couldn't afford it. And we talked with the board, and it was like, well, we either do a different project or we go for a bond. And again, we had community members, not our elected board, community members on our different committees that we have, board committees, and they were saying, we don't know why you don't go for a bond. And this is in a community where bonds have failed, not hospital bonds, but school bonds have regularly failed. And we thought, oh boy. And so, we ended up going out for the bond. And there's a lot of reasons that the bond passed. It passed on the first try. It passed with 66%. But one of the things I would say from watching other communities is that I believe that work that we did on the front end of talking to the community about our strategic plan, building those relationships, ultimately ended up helping us in passing that bond, which was it wasn't the only part, but I think it was an important part.
Oh, it sure must have been. I see the correlation there for sure, Theresa. I also do know that as community-minded and involved and engaged as you were to work on elevating your relationships and your reputation in the community and creating this vision, is that I've watched you inside, when I've been on site there in your organization, I've watched you inside with your leaders, with your employee-driven teams, and painting that vision for them and working on things such as service excellence, improving quality, leadership, and all those things. There was a lot of that inside work going on at the same time. So you were really holding both in place, the community as well as the internal community, to create this vision. Can you speak to the employee engagement, the leadership engagement, the work that's been done inside as you've been getting ready and now going through this process?
Yeah, a lot of work there. And I will say that I think fundamentally for me, even in our strategic plan, like we have people right at the middle. And I always tell people when I show them our strategic plan, people are right at the middle because none of this stuff will happen without our people, right? And so, yes, I mean, we embarked on the journey with Capstone. I was very excited to do that. I love that kind of work. It's not a short-term work like you and I were talking about before. Like this
Mhm.
has been a lot of stuff for 10, 11 years of working on it, but really creating our teams again with Capstone, and our initiative is called Rise. And so we have a few too many I names maybe because we have an Illuminate team that works with patient experience, an Ignite team that works with employee engagement. Our Imagine team is like our communication and education team. And then our Innovate team that does our clinical excellence. I think the big thing has been really helping to support our leaders, right? And giving them tools to be able to be more effective and helping them grow as leaders has been a really critical part. But if I could tie one other aspect of kind of the building and the culture together, when we were designing the new hospital, we rented a building downtown and we had frontline professionals, leaders, community members, and we literally built rooms out of cardboard. We brought equipment in and said, how is this equipment going to fit in this space? What is it going to be like? And then while we had it built up, we would let the public come in and look at it and ask questions. So to me, that was another way of employees being able to be involved in saying, what is this workspace going to look like? In fact, the very first kickoff meeting that we had, which was not in the mock up space, but we had almost 100 people at our kickoff meeting to begin the planning for the hospital. And that included, again, frontline professionals, community members, leaders, to say, what do we want to see in this new hospital?
This certainly is the building of a healthcare system versus just the build or the building. This is really bigger than just bricks and mortar, and it's going to create something in your organization that is just really an amazing asset for the community and leave such a legacy. As far as the future goes, what do you think are some of the things between now and that certificate of occupancy, those first patients, those early months and years? Like, what are you seeing as some of the priority work that you, as the CEO, your leaders, your teams, what are they really focused on as you get closer to the finish line? Taking a brief pause in this episode to make an announcement about upcoming events being held by Capstone Leadership Solutions. Our signature event in its 14th year, the 2-day Capstone Leadership Summit. It is for all healthcare leaders. It is our core curriculum of 9 core leadership practices that have been used to great results by thousands of healthcare leaders all across the country. This isn't theory, this is practical, doable tactics that are game changers for your team and your results. You can go to our website, capstoneleadership.net, and on the resource page, there is a tab for all of our upcoming events. Pick one, show up, and be a better leader day one after attending.
Yeah, I would say some of the things we're still really focused on, if I were to go back to those 4 teams, the pre-arrival, the arrival, the care team, the fond farewell team, we're having lots of conversations now of they've picked the things that we really need to work on. They're already starting to put some of those things into place. But then we're talking a lot about, one, how are we going to train people to it? And how are we going to hardwire this into place, and trying to make it a celebratory type of thing as well. So we're going to be rebranding. We're not changing our name, but we're also rebranding. So going back to that whole new healthcare organization. So some of the things we've talked about is making everyone's going to go through our orientation, our Make Day One special again. right?
Oh,
We had people coming that had worked for the organization for a number of years, and then they would have new employees who went through Make Day One Special. And they're like, we want to go through Make Day One Special. And so we decided that as a part of the whole new healthcare organization, everyone's going to go through Make Day One Special, right? They're going to
I
get their
love
new
it.
badge with their new picture, because we have some people that have their same picture from years ago, and they will get some different Samaritan swag. Oh, the other thing is we did a whole new appearance policy. So the way that people
Mm.
look when they come in, so we're in the process of getting ready to roll that out.
I have to stop you right there, though, because I think that's always very challenging, right? I do think that, like, the appearance, has that been a struggle? I want to,
Oh
there's a lot of opinions on that.
yeah.
So,
Yeah, that, I mean, I'm not going to say that it was easy. Our teams, I think, did a great job. We had one of our senior leaders led the initiative, and they did, I don't remember how many meetings, Sue. They did a lot of meetings where they brought frontline professionals into those meetings to hear feedback on what they thought the appearance policy should look like, right? And a lot of it was what is in our current policy. But to be really honest, we hadn't done a great job of holding people accountable to it.
mhm.
But the other piece that changed is that we're going to go to standardized scrub colors for different positions.
Mhm.
And so you're right. I mean, does some people feel, even though standardized scrub colors, some people loved it and said, of course, I mean, this is what other organizations do. And some people feel a little bit like that's infringing on my personal expression,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
I think by and large, the approach of engaging everybody, getting their input was really good. And then I got to share that we did one other, I thought, really fun thing. Our chief development and communications officer, we were going to have one of our employee forums that we call Professional Connect. And she and her team planned a fashion show. And it wasn't a red carpet, it was like a gold sparkly carpet. And then we had some of our frontline professionals actually in the different scrub colors, and we announced them as they came through, and it was fun. So we've tried to make it's not fully rolled out yet. We've tried to make
Mhm.
it fun and celebratory and a way for people to really feel proud and have that pride in what their appearance is and what that means to our patients and to our experience.
Teresa, that's so clever. And I've always found in this 13 plus years of working with organizations using employee driven efforts and big contributions coming from our staff and professionals is that they are clever. And to your point, they like to create things into celebration and fun activities, even though it's hard work to change people's
Mm-hmm.
behaviors, change how they do things, change what they wear or how they present themselves. Like all of those are, even though they might seem small, they're pretty tricky changes to make in entire groups of people. So I love the creativity
Yeah.
of that fashion show. That is just a good one.
I think I'm really excited to see the whole thing, everyone's work, not just the building.
Yeah.
But I mean, even that idea of we're going to walk in and the professionals are going to be dressed differently than what they are today, and just what that experience is going to look like. And again, we've talked about the nice hotels. And if you go to a nice hotel, what you expect when you walk to that front desk, right?
Mhm.
And so I'm excited to see it all come to life together.
Yeah, so many moving parts, so many pieces, and then to see it all culminate. And again, I just love the vision for it's not just in this one spot in this shiny new building, it's across your entire enterprise and other buildings and clinics that are part of your service areas and that'll feel united and cohesive. All of those decisions are playing
Mhm.
out in those different places. That's just brilliant. That is creating a new healthcare system.
I just want to say too, like, obviously the appearance policy, that isn't just the hospital. So again, even for professionals in the other areas, it isn't just
Mhm.
all about the hospital. And one last comment on engaging that that group, because I shared with you a story earlier about how I heard a story about a hospital that didn't do that and how it disenfranchised some. The other piece we've been talking about is our new hospital is going to be first floor water theme, second floor land, third floor sky. And so eventually, we can't do it day one, but we have plans, and we have shared that we have plans that at our clinic, that's a 3-floor clinic, it will go to water, land, sky. We have another clinic that only has 1 floor, it will just be the water. We'll redo signage, we'll redo all of that. We can't do it day one of the new hospital, but we have a plan, and people know that. So again, they know that's coming.
Yeah, hats off to whoever came up with that idea. It's just brilliant. I love how it carries across the other clinics and spaces. That is really clever.
Yeah.
Clever. Very clever.
Yeah.
If there's people out there listening to this today and their organization is embarking on a building project, whether it's small, a change in current space, an add-on to current space, or it's something as big as building a brand new big building like you are there, what would be your key words of wisdom, like in the early stages?
Yeah. Again, I go back to how do you engage people? And so I thought right away as you were asking that, like, well, how are my relationships in the community, and how can I build those relationships in the community? How can I share that vision so that people can buy into it? And the other thing is, of course, you learn the spots that people don't really like, or that might be kind of sticky points, right? And that helps you be able to evaluate later, like, okay, I got to think about how I'm going to address that, or what's going to happen with that. Internally, how do you engage your team, right? How do you, not just your senior leadership and your leadership, but really all the professionals within the organization, and how can they be a part of whatever that new thing looks like, right? Or whatever that strategic plan might be. What is their feedback? How can they be a part of it? So I think those are probably two of the key things, is
Mhm.
that relationship piece and trying to get everybody's input, even if it doesn't all make it, at least they've
Mhm.
been able to have that part and have that voice. And then I regularly remind people of our connection to the community, or the things we've shared, because they forget. And
Mhm.
especially, like, our project took so many years, that it's
Mhm.
regularly reminding people of those things too. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. I was thinking about maybe a good way to close up or wrap up our conversation today. And I don't know if this will take us in a good direction to close this, but I know that one of the things that I've witnessed about you in action with, again, employees or leaders when I've watched you in action is your real commitment to keeping the values of your organization alive, not just its vision, but
Mm.
the values of the organization. And I know that about you, and I know your values of your organization. And as you're talking about the things that you've actually done with your community, with your employees, with this project, I sense those values coming out in the types of direction you've taken and the action and the decisions made. But how does this new healthcare system, how does this whole journey to get there, how does it bring and keep your values alive? And is there any specific value that you think is really driving this transformation, this change?
Hmm. That's a really great question. First of all, I'm glad you brought it up, because I am very values driven, and I saw firsthand in the organization that I worked at for 21 years how, when I was a part of developing and rolling out the values to the organization, like, it just, the culture was already good, but it just, like, exploded, right? It just went on fire in a good way. And so I don't like the values to be something that, we wrote those down, but we don't ever talk about them. And that was probably one of my proudest things about where I used to work, was on an employee survey. It said that the values were lived out, and we had a really phenomenally high rating of people feeling like they were lived out. And so one of my probably key goals, and I didn't say it, is I want people to believe those values and to live them out. So I really think that in everything we're doing, we've had to listen. That's our first value, right? Listen. Listen to our community, listen to our professionals, listen, listen, listen. And then our second value of love, I mean, I think that can come out in a lot of different ways, right? Like for me, love for the community, love for our professionals, and wanting to say that we take what we had and we do these things out of love for what we do, right? And so I think that that's a big one, and that we want, when our patients come in, we want them to feel like they're loved and cared about and listened to. And I feel like respect kind of just, in some respects, if you listen and you love, respect is going to happen. And that's our next value. And excel, I mean, we're always looking for how we can do something better. And then innovate is our last one. So I feel like those first three, even though all of them are super important, I feel like those first three are so core to everything in building relationships and in everything that we do.
Mm-hmm. I knew it was good to ask you about that, because having a great building is important, but that sense of those values at play really drives every decision we make about our building and about our people and investing in them and committing to them. And so thank you for sharing that. I think it's a very important part of your story, but also the Samaritan story. So thank you for that.
I was thinking about those values too, because those values, they came from listening to our employees and to others about what they would say about Samaritan. And so I feel like everything I keep saying is, how do we engage people? How do we listen? How do we hear from them? But I do think that that is a really critical part of what we do, along with continuing to share our vision and our values and how they're lived out. So, yeah.
Thank you. I'm certain that this episode will inspire some folks out there, whether they're building a project or if they're not. There's a lot in here about just improving our healthcare organizations. So thank you for sharing that, Theresa. I look forward, as the countdown goes on, 135 days and counting. I look forward to watching this happen for you and your community. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sue. Thanks for the invitation.
Thanks for tuning in to Culture Change RX. If you found value in today's episode and you are a believer in fostering change in healthcare, join us in making a difference. Follow, rate, and review our podcast on your favorite platform. Share it with colleagues and your network. Together, we can make a lasting impact. Until next week, keep inspiring positive change.